Tom Mackie, and we have very little time left to show you what we're going to do here tonight. The sun is just hitting the horizon line. We had, when we turned up to this location, it was, to say the least, not spectacular light. It's very soft light, and there's no clouds. We've come out to shoot a sunset, this blazing red sunset, where there are no clouds. But, you know, we're going to make the best of the situation. Now, we're at Hunstanton along the North Norfolk coast, or the West Norfolk coast, you'd say. It's the only place in Britain where you can, it's the most easterly point where you can photograph sunset on the coast. If I were shooting in film days, I would look at this and think, well, gosh, there's just no light on the cliffs now. I would go home. There's just nothing here that's really doing it for me. But digital brings out so much more light and color than what I can achieve in film. So I'm just going to make, so what I'm going for, you've got these brilliant chalk and clay cliffs, and what I was hoping for was a really nice strong light on these to bring out some color, but I'm not getting that. So I'm going to try to get something out of this anyway. So I'm choosing a low angle in order to get the reflection of the cliffs in the tide pools. We've got some beautiful ripples. I'm just going to adjust this a little bit. Now, let's make an exposure. Let's see what that looks like. Actually, that's not bad. Under the lighting conditions, this isn't a bad shot. So what I'm doing is I'm using a polarizing filter because we're shooting with the sun to our shoulder, 90-degree angle. It's going to get maximum polarization. Even though we don't have a great deal of light, daylight, it's still going to darken the sky down. It's going to help to balance out the exposure. And the other thing is, I've got a 3-stop Lee medium density, or rather medium transition ND grad. So I'm bringing that down just at an angle over the sky just to help it balance out with the foreground that we have here. So slide that in, just come down just over the top of the cliffs. Now I'm shooting at f/14 because I need a little bit more depth of field. My focus point is about 1/3 of the way into this frame. So let's make a exposure. Okay, so what I've done is I've taken a before shot without any filtration whatsoever, and you can see how blown out this sky is, and the whole thing lacks punch. But by putting the polarizing filter and the ND grad over the sky, okay, come back on, there we go. And you can see now you've got some really nice colors, and it's brought the tone of the sky down, and it's brought this up. I'll just flip this back and forth. You can see that before and after. There we go. I'm happy with that. So there are a few things that you need to pay attention of when you're photographing a scene like this. On beaches such as this, you're going to have a lot of rocks scattered around, and they tend to be very dark, especially on a sunset if you're photographing into the sun. So you need to be aware of what's on the edge of your frame. So you don't want to have a rock cutting through the edge of the frame. I've carefully, when I angled the camera down a little bit, I've got a couple of rocks here in the foreground that were just on the edge. And for me, that just kind of is a no-no. So you want to include them or exclude them altogether. So I just angled the camera down just to include them into the frame. Now, the beauty about photographing coastlines is that it's always different. I've been to this location many times, and every time I've come out here, you get something completely different. Because with every tide, everything changes. It washes away footprints, especially, which we've left a lot of them here, but it always leaves something new, a new tide pool, or starfish, or some interesting sea life. So that's one thing I love about photographing coastlines, is that it's always new and different, especially if you're interacting with the waves, because every wave is different. So you're always creating a new image that possibly another person wouldn't be able to get. Okay, there are a few tips that you should be aware of about photographing on coastlines. Best thing is to bring a pair of these. Welly boots, you're going to be getting into places that our cameraman shouldn't be, because he forgot to bring his wellies. And so you can walk anywhere in these and not worry about sinking down in the mud. But other things, you want to catch a tide when the tide's going out, not coming in. For circumstances like this, if you're being chased by the tide when it's always coming in, you're losing your foreground all the time. So you want a tide that's receding. So always check your tide times. Make sure you're, whatever you're trying to capture, you're catching it either at the low tide, high tide, or mid tide, whichever you want for that image. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this, and be sure to check out our other videos on YouTube. Like it, subscribe to our channel, and also look at landscapephotographyiq.com for loads of tips. Give us some feedback. Tell us what you like to see, what you want us to film in the future, and what your likes and dislikes about photography in general. It'd be great to hear from you. Thanks for watching. Bye.